everyone, I'm Michelle with Designs by JuJu, and in today's video tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how you can use the brand new Country Christmas Set 2 to customize a banner for your home this holiday season. I will be showing you how you can make a banner using the In the Hoop Big Set of Pennant and Bunting Shapes Set 1. The Country Christmas Set is so versatile and is the second in a series of rustic and gorgeous imagery. Let's get started. For today's project, you will need the following supplies. Fabric, cut according to the size that you are making. I'm going to be using this fun burlap. It actually has some gold sparkle threaded throughout it, and I think this is going to be perfect for my rustic banner. If you choose to use a cotton fabric for this project, I would highly recommend fusing SF101 to the back of it to provide added support and stability for your stitches. I will not be fusing SF101 to the back of my burlap because I want to leave my edges raw for that rustic feel. Tearaway stabilizer. I'm using Designs by JuJu Plus tearEZ tearaway stabilizer. Batting. I'm using Designs by JuJu loftySOFT batting. Embroidery thread. And lastly, you will need some type of ribbon to hang your wall hanging. Let's head over to the embroidery machine and let's get stitching. I'm going to be stitching the In the Hoop Big Set of Pennant and Bunting Shapes Set 1 for my banner project today. I will also be pairing it with the Country Christmas Set 2. I will be stitching the 9-inch size on my 9.5 by 14-inch hoop. I have resized it slightly using Embroidery's Essential software to fit my 9.5 by 14-inch hoop. You can do those same features using your embroidery machine. The Big Set of Pennant and Bunting Shapes set includes multiple sets of buntings and pennants for you to use. Not only does it come in 8 different shapes, but there are also 9 different styles for each shape. Each style has 2 options for the holes, buttonholes or eyelets, and each file comes in 7 sizes. This is a huge set of designs. Additionally, there is a set 2 if you're looking for some other shapes. You definitely get a major bang for your buck with this design set. Of the 9 style options, I'm going to be stitching the raggy with motif stitch with crosshatch quilting for my project. Since I'm stitching the raggy style, that is why I have tearEZ tearaway stabilizer in my hoop. If I was stitching the satin designs, I would want to use a water-soluble fabric type stabilizer instead so that my stabilizer would remove cleanly from the edges. It's totally personal and design preference which you want your pennant banner to look like. Just make sure to reference the PDF step-by-step instructions included with your purchase if you're unsure of the stabilizer or fabric you should be using. All right, so I already have my 9.5 by 14-inch hoop loaded onto my machine, and I have my design added onto my machine. Like I said, I used Embroidery's Essentials to make my design slightly larger from the 9-inch size. I also combined my pennant banner with the Country Christmas Set 2. You can do both of those steps on your embroidery machine if you do not have embroidery software. So the first stitch for my pennant banner is going to be the placement line for my batting. Now that I have the placement line for my batting, I'm ready to place my batting directly on top of those placement stitches and run the tack down to secure my batting in place. Next, I'm going to remove my hoop from my machine and cut away all of this excess batting right along the tack down stitches, making sure not to trim any of the stitches. I've just trimmed away all of my excess batting, so now I'm ready to place my burlap fabric directly on top of the batting, making sure that these outer stitches are completely covered. I want some excess fabric because I'm going to be leaving it raw edge and trimming it in a cute way. So make sure that you reference the cut chart included with your PDF for specific sizing for the type and size of bunting that you are making. Next, I am going to tack down my burlap fabric. I would highly recommend using the same thread color that you plan to use for the final decorative stitching that will go all the way around the entire banner. If you choose to use a thread color now that is, say, green, and you want your decorative stitching to be tan, that green does have a chance of peeking through your thread. So just make sure that whatever color of thread you choose now is close to or coordinates with the final stitching that you plan to do around the entire outside border. Again, if you're doing the satin stitch, that's not as important, but if you're doing the bean or the decorative final stitching, I would definitely be aware of that thread color. All right, so I'm going to run the tack down stitch to secure my burlap in place. Now that my fabric is tacked down, I'm ready to run the quilting motif. I have chosen to do the crosshatch quilting motif. There is also a stipple option or a blank option. So if you've chosen to leave your pennant banner blank on your background, this step is not applicable to you. I'm going to go ahead and run the decorative quilting motif stitching, and then we'll check back in for the next step. I've just finished that quilting motif, and as you can see, I just chose a coordinating color with my burlap, but it really adds some fun dimension with that batting. You can see there's some texture on it. It adds a very professional and elegant touch to this cutesy rustic design that I'm doing. All right, so the next stitches that I'm going to be doing are for the Country Christmas Set 2. Now is the time that you want to add your design. If you are using an embroidery software such as Embroidery, you can drop your design right after this quilting motif, or like I said, if you're leaving yours blank, you would drop it right after the tack down stitch for your fabric. If you're just using your embroidery machine, now's the time to go ahead and go grab that design and stitch it first. You want to stitch your design before you add your backing fabric, otherwise your design will peek through on the back of your pennant banner. That's not a huge deal if you plan to hang this against a wall, but we always love a nice polished and finished look, and so I prefer to add my design before I add my backing fabric. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch the Ho 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 Y'all Santa from the Country Christmas Set 2. I'm going to stitch that design off camera, and we'll check back in once it's complete. Now that all of my decorative stitching is complete, I've got my adorable Santa right here on the front of my banner. I'm ready to remove my hoop from my machine, and I'm going to flip it over to the back side. I've just removed my hoop from my machine, so now I'm ready to flip to the back side, and I'm going to secure my last piece of burlap fabric to the back. Again, I am going to make sure that all of those stitches are completely covered and that I have some overhang with my fabric. I'm going to secure it in place with some medical tape. Next, I'm going to place my hoop back onto my machine to run the tack down stitch to secure my backing fabric in place. I've got my hoop loaded back onto my machine, and now I'm ready to run the tack down stitch to secure my backing fabric in place. Now that my backing fabric is secure, I'm ready to run the decorative motif stitching around the outer edge. If you are choosing to make the satin stitch pennant banner, you will want to first trim away right here along the outer tack down stitch around the front fabric and around the backing fabric. Trimming away the excess front and back fabric when using the satin stitch will give you a beautiful clean edge. That is also why you want to use a water-soluble fabric type stabilizer for that type of stitching and project. All right, so since I'm using burlap and I'm using the quilted stitching around the edge, I'm going to leave my fabric as is, and I'm going to run that decorative chain stitching. The final stitch for this pennant and banner is my eyelet holes. Remember, there are two options, the eyelet holes or the buttonholes. I'm going to go ahead and run those stitches, and our pennant banner will be complete. My stitching is complete, so now I'm ready to remove my hoop from my machine, and let's head over to the work table for some finishing touches. We're over at my work table, and all of my stitching is complete, so I'm ready to unhoop my project. And since I did the decorative outer stitching, or if you did the bean stitching, now is the time to go ahead and tear away your excess stabilizer. If you did the satin stitching, you'll want to trim around the edge of your satin stitch and remove that water-soluble stabilizer with some water and a Q-tip or your finger. Next, I'm going to use my scissors, and I'm going to leave about a 1/2 inch seam allowance from the outer edge of the stitching. Depending on the fabric you choose and the look that you want with your project, you may want to trim it closer than that, or you may want to leave more fabric around the edge. Next, I want to give my burlap a little bit of a rustic feel. So I'm going to start to fray the edges around my burlap. Now, if you're using a burlap like me, you can gently start to pull some of the horizontal pieces out from the weaving, and that will allow you to have a rougher raw edge along the bottom. Depending on the amount of the fringe and rough look that you want, you can decide how many of these horizontal strips you want to remove. And remember, you have that decorative stitching holding the rest of the burlap in place, so you don't have to worry about the entire thing unfraying. Okay, once you're satisfied with the fringe look, you can move along to the sides and the top. Once you are satisfied with the fringe detailing you've created using your burlap, we're ready to go ahead and punch out these eyelet holes. You could either use a pair of sharp tip scissors, or I'm going to be using my crocodile to punch these holes. Once you have your holes punched out, the final step is to add your hanging. So I'm going to use a ribbon to hang my wall hanging. You can choose any decorative piece that you would like, whether that's a dowel rod or other. So I am going to string my satin ribbon through, and I cut a pretty large piece of satin ribbon because I want to tie a bow at the top. You can adjust your bow to get it exactly how you want it. The final step is to make sure that you use a lighter to heat set the edges of your ribbon so that it doesn't fray. My adorable pennant is complete. So as you see, here's the pennant that we stitched on camera, and here's the bow we just added that allows me to hang it anywhere I choose in my home. I just created this beautiful banner for my home for this holiday season using the Country Christmas Set 2, as well as the Indie Hoop Big Set of Pennants and Bunting Shape Set 1. On camera, you saw me stitch the bunting as well as add the country Christmas imagery to customize this piece for my home this holiday season. This pennant is one of many ways that you could use the Country Christmas Set 2 to create all kinds of gorgeous and rustic imagery for your home this holiday season. These images would be beautiful on gift tags, stockings, tote bags, and even kitchen towels. Could you imagine stringing together a whole set of these pennants to create a beautiful banner for your home? You could even hang it on your Christmas tree. It would be absolutely stunning. I hope you have enjoyed today's tutorial. Don't forget to check the description box below for additional helpful links. Also, make sure to join the Designs by JuJu Blessings Facebook group for more tips, tricks, and inspiration. We hope to see you soon. Don't forget to subscribe. Happy stitching!